Hello guys, just get my list up there. Hello, welcome to our Nailing FX and Crypto. Hopefully obvious what we'll be looking at in terms of the markets that we'll be looking at today. Now, I just want to say before we start, you guys let me know in the chat if there are particular markets you want me to look at, if there are particular timeframes you want me to look at, by all means, just let me know in the chat. Cool. So let me just make sure we get some disclaimers covered. I know that's the boring bit, but it's the necessary bit. So top left-hand side, we've got some disclaimers up there. Please read them. Again, not just for legal reasons, but also to understand what you can expect from videos like this. It's where obviously we're looking at trades we've taken before, trades that we might take now, but just because I place them doesn't mean it's something that you guys might want to do, doesn't mean it fits your trade plan. It's ultimately up to you to decide what you do with your trading. Okay, so my name's Becky. My email address is there. It's becky@tradictive.com. There's also support@tradictive.com, so you can email us on either of those if you've got questions after the fact or if you're watching the recording. And there's also a link you can go to. This is tradewithufos.com/Becky. From here, you can do various things. You can get apps for different platforms, depending on which ones that you use. You can book one-on-one coaching if you'd like, and you can come down here, log in and ask a question on this page. Now, the reason that we'd like it if you ask questions on this page is because if you put it there, then we can answer it there. So it means that other people can see the answers, see the questions and learn from this space. So we can all learn from this area. So ideally, that's where you'd go for questions. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is just have a look at some trades that we've placed recently in sessions that we've done actually on YouTube. But hopefully it will give you guys, for those of you that might follow us in different places, and for those of you that maybe have never followed us, it gives you a little bit of context as to trades that we've placed and how we're doing basically. So I'm going to go top to bottom in terms of time, how long we've been in these trades or how long we've been waiting for them. So a few sessions ago, we had a trade on Litecoin, where our entry was this black line and we entered into it on the 27th, I think it was actually the 28th of October because we placed it on the 27th. Our stop was the red line. We had a green line here, which was our first target, and then our second target was a trailing stop. Now, the way that would have worked is we would have got out behind these UFOs, which is where we get in and out of trades at UFOs. I'll expand on that in a sec. So it actually means we would have got out of this trade. So if I go back in time and just expand on this, there would have been a UFO at this place, which means our stop loss would have been moved to 265.07. That's what a trailing stop is. We move our stop loss and we move it up behind, in our case, behind UFOs, these little green things, so that we can lock in profit as we go. So our stop loss would have been underneath 265.07. So that's where we would have taken our profit. So this one was a profitable trade and we would have taken half the profit here and then half the profit up here. So overall, we would have made money somewhere in between, call it a 3-4 to 1 overall, probably likely would have been. That was Litecoin. We then had the Euro US dollar. This was a currency. Cool. This was a short trade that we put on, and this was from a session on the 20th of October. Again, we placed the trade. We had our entry at the black line, stop loss at the red line, 2 different targets. And as you can see, it hit our entry and it came down, hit our first target, eventually hitting our second target earlier on this week. So happy with that one as well. So far 2 profitable trades. Don't worry, I will show you losing trades as well. They of course happen. So this was dollar Swiss. Maybe it was FXCM data. Oh, I could have sworn. Oh, here it is. There it was. So dollar Swiss, just look on the left-hand side with this one. This was placed on the 4th of November and we placed it around about here and price just went straight through. We would have been stopped out on this one. If we'd have been really active and checking in on the trade, then perhaps we might have cancelled it at some point between entry and stop and lost a little bit less. If we weren't as active, it would have been a full-on stop out. So we do have losing trades as well. We had Canadian Swiss. This was on a 4-hour chart, which means 21 on the right-hand side. So with the Canadian Swiss, this was a break-even trade. Let me see if it's easy to see there on the 4-hour. Yeah, so we can see here that what happened is we placed it on the 4th of November. It entered on the 4th of November. It then came out, hit our target, our first target, and then obviously went against us eventually. So that means it was a break-even trade. So far we've had 2 decent profits, 1 loss and a break-even trade. And then we had another crypto, which was ADA USD. This one was on a weekly chart, which means 144 on the right. And this one, same situation. So we had a, in fact, actually, this one was a cancelled trade. We would have got out of this trade because on the 8th of November, which is when it triggered, on the 8th of November, that would have been a change in our climate. So we would have cancelled the trade. If we weren't very active, then we lost this trade. If we were active and we were checking in on it, we would have cancelled it. That's a summary of our most recent trades, again, for those that might follow us on different platforms, and hopefully that gives context to the sessions you've seen before. For those that have never seen it, it gives you an idea of that this is how real trading works. You have a couple of losses, depending on how strict or how on top of your methodology you are. You either cancel out of trades or you don't because you left it. You either close trades early and you might limit a loss by doing that. You might limit a profit by doing that. Overall, there might be different ways that you manage your trades. If we were to assume we left all of these, we didn't manage it, we didn't do anything, then we've had 2 profits and then 2 losses and a break-even trade. Overall would have been overall at profit, because when we make money, we make more than what we lose when we're wrong. So overall, happy with that. Okay, so what we're going to do now is look at new opportunities. Again, you guys let me know in the chat box if there are particular markets or timeframes you want me to look at. I'm happy to look at them, so you let me know. I'm going to start with the weekly economic calendar on FX Street. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to filter by major currencies that we trade. There we go. And I'm also going to filter by high impact news. I'm going to apply the filter. And I'm going to look for the next week. Essentially what I'm doing here is I want to know what high impact news is coming out or scheduled to come out that could impact these currencies that we're about to be trading. So today, for example, throughout the day, we've got some news that might affect the Canadian dollar. Nothing tomorrow, and on Friday, we've got some news that might affect the euro or the Canadian dollar. Starting next week, New Zealand dollar on Monday, and so on. So essentially what this means is if we've got news coming out today and tomorrow, or today and Friday, between today and Friday, on the euro and the Canadian dollar, perhaps we avoid trading the euro CAD. Perhaps we avoid putting 3-4 trades on that have Canadian dollar in them. We try and avoid these, not entirely, but just try and make sure that we're not putting all of our eggs into a risky basket. So that's why we look at these things and check on them. So we'll keep an eye out and try and make sure that we avoid at least putting on loads of euro or Canadian dollar trades. And what we'll do, I'm going to come to TradeStation here. Again, if you followed us before, you'll know this is a scan that we use to tell us where we may have probabilities. We have majors on the left-hand side, minors on the right-hand side. And what we're looking for is where we have near sensible opportunities, whether long or short, where we have this box being a particular color. That's what we're looking for. So in this case, all of these near sensible situations have gray boxes. The only one that might be worth looking at, oh, it's gone now, it's gone. So there's no opportunities on a 60-minute climate for US dollar pairs. On the 240-minute, none of these say sensible, so we don't care about those either. Same there for the daily. On the right-hand side is where we have the minors. So on a 240-minute climate, we've got a few opportunities we can check out. On the daily climates, again, we've got 2 or 3 opportunities we can check out. I'm going to start with the daily climates. What I'm going to do is, what I normally do is I'll go to TradingView to have a look at these opportunities. Now, we can go to MetaTrader. MetaTrader I tend to use more to show majors. And obviously at the moment we don't have any opportunities on the majors to look at. We might have later, so we'll come back to it if we need. But we'll start with daily climates, and let's start with the we said we'd try and avoid euro or Canadian dollar, and it looks like we've got only euro or Canadian dollar options. So we'll start with the euro Aussie on a daily chart. Again, if you guys have specific markets you want me to look at, you let me know. So euro Aussie, put on Oanda data because it's the same kind of data that comes from TradeStation. And we have a daily chart on the left, which means we will use a 55-minute chart on the right. If you can't see a 55-minute chart, 60-minute chart will do just fine. So what we're looking at here, and this is where I'm just going to take a little bit of a pause just to explain the methodology very quickly as to why we would be taking certain trades and not others. So first things first, we want to know, should we buy, sell, or do nothing? That's what this app helps us with, AutoClimate. AutoClimate at the moment is showing us a thick red dot. That tells us probability is down. If probability is down, we should probably look to sell. No point buying something if probability is to the downside. So if probability is to the downside, we look to sell. If it was a thick blue dot, that tells us probability is to the upside. And if it was a thin dot of either color, that would show us probability is neither way. For the time being, thick red dot, probability down, we look to sell. Now, we don't just sell anywhere. We want to sell at areas where we can keep our risk tight, where we can maximize on our reward, and where we can increase our probabilities. And we do that by selling with these guys, our red UFOs. Red UFOs show us where a bunch of sellers are. We want to sell with a bunch of sellers because the more sellers sell, the more price is likely to go down. At the same time, we've got different options, different stacks of sellers in different places. How do we know which one to pick? We use the one that coincides with the EMA value from the bigger time frame. We do that because it adds in even more probability because people buy and sell at the EMA value. So that is a very quick overall summary of the methodology. So essentially, the probabilities that we have here is that this UFO, which if I were to just draw around it for the time being, and then we can see it visually, this UFO that we have on the right-hand side, which I'll tidy up in a minute, envelops the EMA number. We can see that there, the EMA is inside it, in the context of a selling climate, meaning probability down, and probability down. That's why we place these trades. So let's tidy this up and make sure we get the exact numbers, and then we can place this trade. So the entry price is going to be coming from this bottom number, which is 1.55508, just going to round that down to 1.5550. Our stop loss is coming from this top number, which is 1.55778. We're going to round it up by a pip, or round it up to the closest pip, and then we're going to add 7 in this case, which is going to be 85. So that's our entry, that's our stop loss. Looking good so far. Our final target is going to be the buyers over here, big stack of buyers on a big time frame. So our final target is going to be using this number, which is 1.50884. We're going to round it up to the closest pip and add a couple of pips just to cover the spread. So there we go, that's our final target. And our safety target is going to be 1 to 1 away. So we'll figure that out using the order panel on TradingView. So our entry, 1.5550. Our stop loss, 1.5585. Our risk, I'm going to put $50 just because it's nice, easy, round number, makes sense. Obviously, you guys decide what your risk would be or if you even take it at all. And our first target is simply going to be a 1 to 1 target. So if our risk in pips is 35 pips, then our profit in pips will also be 35 pips. So let's just draw that on the chart as well. This is why I like using TradingView, because it does a lot of the maths for me, so I don't have to think about it. So we'll put that one on, and then we'll put the second half of the trade on. So same entry, same stop loss, same risk, but our profit target in this case is 1.5091. Brilliant. So that there is our first trade that we've put on. It's the Euro Australian dollar daily on the left-hand side, 55-minute on the right-hand side, going short because we have a downwards climate. AutoClimate is telling us that. We have sellers around that area, and we have the EMA in that area as well, which increases our probabilities. I'm going to put a little note on here just so we remember what's going on. So placed on the 17th of November, FX Street, and that's it really. That's all we need to know. Okay, so that's our first trade. Let's now go back to TradeStation and see what other opportunities we might have. So we just looked at the Euro Aussie. I'm going to avoid looking at the Euro New Zealand, because it would be doubling up on placing Euro trades. So what I'm going to look at here is the Canadian yen. So we'll take a look at this one now. Reason I'm doing that for those that are coming in later is because we saw that there's news coming out on the euro between now and Friday. So we didn't want to double up on euro trades. Okay, that one was a losing trade from a session before. So let's get rid of that. Okay, so Canadian yen. We would be looking for long opportunities, and it looks like we do. So happy days. This has been really good so far. A lot of times we have to wait a while until we get good opportunity, so this is cool. So let me explain real quick. Oh, wait, I'm wrong. I jumped ahead of the gun. I'll just explain why. Everything was lining up but one thing. So we had thick blue dot, probability upwards. We had buyers here that's shown to us by our auto UFOs that coincided with the EMA value. The EMA value was right at the top of this, but coinciding. Reason why we're not taking this trade is because we have sellers, big stack of sellers right on top of us. In fact, we're within them right now. And that's a problem because we are going long because the climate is up. So probability upwards. We've got probability upwards from the UFO and probability upwards from the EMA. That's why we would have gone long. But if we've got probability coming downwards from a big stack of sellers, we don't have a clear run to the upside. And if we don't have a clear run to the upside, we have less probability that this works out, more probability that we lose. And that's not something we want to do. So we're going to keep away from that. Unfortunately, it was very, very close, but unfortunately not working out so far. We're going to look at the New Zealand Canadian, because that's just popped up. So New Zealand CAD, have a look and see what we've got. I can tell you very quickly, we don't have a trade. Oh, we do have a trade. Look at me, I'm getting things wrong all over the place today. We do have a trade today, so this is cool as well. Let's have a look. Okay, so we have thick red dot, probability to the downside. We have sellers with our alter UFO here between these prices that we see here, these sort of burgundy, reddy, browny color that we see there. We've got sellers between those prices. The EMA value is 0.8824, which is the start of this UFO as well. So brilliant, everything's lining up, happy days. We've also got some room to get to the buyers, which is the opposite of what we just saw when we first had a look. So this is good. So our stop loss is going to be 0.88444, rounded up to 45, add 7. Give a bit of wiggle room and factor in the spread. Our entry price is going to be 0.8824. Our final target is going to be down here, just before this stack of buyers comes in, at 0.86827, round up, add a couple of pips. Our safety target, so 8852, sorry, entry is 8824, stop loss is 8852. Our risk is going to be $50. Again, just that's me using that as an example. You guys pick your own. Our final target, we know where that is. Our safety target, always 1 to 1 away. So we use the order panel to do the maths, tell us what that will be. Going to be 0.8796. And we'll put that in. Don't know why, I always get this little pop-up asking me to save the information when I put the trading information in. It's really weird. I think it's the Microsoft Edge thing. Okay, so same thing, same entry, same stop loss, but in this case our profit target is for our second target, which is 0.8685. And we'll click sell. So that's our second trade. It was the New Zealand Canadian. We have the daily on the left-hand side. We have the 55-minute on the right-hand side. You could use the 60-minute if you can't have access to a 55. We placed a sell short order at this line because we have probability to the downside coming from our climate. We have sellers at this area that coincide with the EMA value as well. Sellers and sellers and sellers all together. That's why we want to place that trade. Also got room to take this to the downside. We just place a little note. So this was placed 17th on FX Street. Okay, cool. So that's 2 trades we've placed so far. That's actually quicker than we would do normally. So I'm happy with that. Sometimes we have to go through a few and sort of scratch them out before we place them. So let's have a look. We've just had a 60-minute opportunity appear and disappear. We've got one here on the New Zealand dollar. So the New Zealand versus the US dollar 60-minute climate. So what we're going to do is we'll go to MetaTrader for that. So I want to use different platforms. So you guys that are using different platforms, hopefully I at least use one that you use and that you're used to. So if it's 60-minute on the left, then we want, that would actually be an 8-minute on the right, but we're going to go to the 5-minute from what we can see on MetaTrader. And we'll do the exact same analysis. We're not doing anything fancy or different on MetaTrader. It's exactly the same. We're just looking at different information. So we have thick blue dot, probability upwards, means we should be looking to buy. We have buyers here between those prices, but let's see where our EMA value is on this time frame. So the EMA value for the hourly, she says, EMA value for the hourly, you see it keeps flicking there. Just going to freeze that, is 0.7003. So that's just there. So unfortunately, the EMA value is not lining up with our UFO. Now, as price falls, so too will the EMA. So they might line up, but we don't know that yet. We could predict it. We could put, what would be the word? Alerts on. We can put alerts on to see as price gets closer to this UFO, if it gets closer to the UFO, what the situation is. For me, it's too far away from where it needs to be, so I'm not gonna waste time or money placing the trade. Let's come back to TradeStation, see if we have any other opportunities for our US dollar pairs. Doesn't look like we do. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back to our cross pairs and we're going to go to a 240-minute climate. We will start with the Swiss franc versus the Japanese yen. Again, for those that have come a little bit late, it's because we have an opportunity that's near, it's sensible, and we have confirmed downwards climate. That's what that red box means. So that's what we'll look at. We'll go to the Swiss yen. That's what we were just looking at here. Swiss yen, and it's a 4-hour climate on the left-hand side, which means we are looking at a 21-minute chart on the right-hand side. Again, Swiss yen. And we'll see what we've got. And we do the exact same process again. Do we have UFOs that coincide with the EMA? No, we don't. So let me just very quickly explain. Thick red dot, probability downwards. EMA value is 123.34, which is like here. And the closest stack of UFOs, the closest stack of sellers is all the way up there. So we don't have our criteria aligning. No problem. We move on to a different opportunity. And again, you guys let me know if you have opportunities you want me to have a look at. By all means, let me know in the chat and I will go and have a look. Let's have a look now at the Aussie New Zealand. Not there. We will look at it here. I use MetaTrader for the US dollar pairs, and then I use TradingView for cross pairs, not for any reason other than to just have a distinguishing factor to show you both. But that's why I'm jumping between platforms, if that wasn't clear. So same situation. We have thick red dot, probability downwards. The EMA value is 1.0419, which is about here. And the closest stack of sellers is quite far away. So not lining up, no problem. We come back and we look for a different opportunity. So we've got Euro New Zealand. Now I'm conscious that we're trying to keep away from the euro, so I'll skip that for now. We'll come back if we really need to. Here we have New Zealand Swiss. So let's have a look at the New Zealand Swiss. New Zealand Swiss. The New Zealand Swiss. Okay, brilliant. We have a trade here, so let's place this one as well. Just going to squidge this down so we see where our target is. So we have thick blue dot, probability upwards. We have buyers here that coincide with the EMA. The EMA is 0.6513, which is just inside our UFO, everything lining up, trade to be placed. So hopefully, as I go through this and I build this out as I'm doing it, hopefully what you guys are getting from this is that we can be really specific with what we're doing. We can be really methodical. There's a reason why we place our trades and a reason why we don't. There's a reason why we have targets where we have our targets. There's a reason why we might discard some things. And it's literally, does it hit the checklist? Yes or no? If it doesn't hit the checklist, we don't place the trade. If it does, we do. And then that way it takes out a lot of the confusion that can sometimes happen that we get as traders, where we don't really know what to do, or something's outside of what we're used to seeing, so we don't have an answer for it. This is all taken care of as we go through our methodology. First of all, we want to make sure that we have confirmed probability up or down, so we know whether or not to buy or sell. Then we want to make sure that we have buyers, if we're buying, buyers that coincide with the EMA. If we're selling, then it's sellers that coincide with the EMA. And that's it. We need to have some room to take our targets, of course, but other than that, pretty straightforward, hopefully pretty simple. So let me just put these in. I was filling it out as I was just explaining that. So we have our entry at 0.6518, it's this top black line. Our stop loss at 0.6505. I've put the risk in as $50 just because it's an easy number for me to give you as an example. You pick that. We put our first target in, which is 1 to 1 away, and we've put our second target in, which is where the sellers are on this time frame on the left-hand side. That's the third trade that we've placed today. So let me do this. We're going through a lot quicker than I would do normally placing trades. Sometimes we have to just look through different opportunities, different situations. Maybe we go through 10 before we find things. So I'm glad that we've got some ones in there. Just having a look at the chat box. So from Akuma, we have GBP, JPY. Let's have a look at that. And then, yes, we could have a look at bonds if we have time to. We tend to, on these sessions, SB, we tend to look at Forex and cryptos, just because that's the sort of title of it. So we'll stick to those firstly, and then if we do have time, we can maybe look at, say, futures of bonds and things like that. So let's go to pound yen. Now, I don't know what time frames you wanted there, Akuma, so let me have a look and see if we've got anything on this time frame, and then we can change time frames and have a look at that as well, if that's helpful. So left-hand side, we have thick blue dot, probability upwards. Our EMA value is 154.02, which, as we can see, is in between these UFOs. Now, as price falls, the EMA will also fall. So it's likely that the EMA, being where it is, would be likely to fall into these sets of UFOs. So what we'll do is we will put a trade on here, because as we can see, the EMA is very close to this stack of UFOs, even though it's a little bit far from price. So it means as price falls, the EMA is likely to fall in here. We'll use these two UFOs, but I would say with this type of trade, we'll keep an eye on it because price is a little bit far from the opportunity, in which case it might be that we need to step in and cancel it. So we'll take it a step at a time, if that makes sense. So the entry is 153 to actually be 154, because we're going to round it up to the closest pip and then some. And the stop loss is 153.705. Round it down to 70 and then take off 5 pips. We have more wiggle room when we go short than when we go long based on the spread, if anyone was wondering that. Our final target is going to be up here, which is 155.407. And let's put this one on. We are flying through it today, guys. 153.65. Like I said, it would normally take a lot longer just to look through opportunities before we find ones that line up. So it's a good day today. We are on a good course, and it also means the next session we have more to come back and look at to really look at what worked and what didn't and what we learned from it. So that's that trade. That's our 1-to-1. Our final target, so the entry is the same, 154. Stop loss is the same, 135.65. Risk is the same, $50. And our profit is going to be 155.440. Actually, we need to round that down to the closest pip. So let me just change that on there as well. Brilliant. Okay, so that is our 4th trade. Again, I'm going to place a little note here. So placed on the 17th of November on FX trade. Cool, there we go. Lovely. Now, we had a request from SB to look at bonds. So let's have a look real quick, and then we'll come back to perhaps a crypto example, if you guys don't have any other suggestions. Let's look at futures. I'm not sure if it's called the same. That's what it's called on TradeStation, but I guess we've got TradeStation up, so let's have a look. Let's open a chart. We can look at the 10-year note, for example. I know the symbols for TradeStation, but they might not be the same on TradingView. So we'll let this just load. There we go. I know the chart might not be what you're used to seeing, but hopefully still makes sense. So let's say we were to look at the, don't know why that's not, there you go, 10-year note, and we'll look at it as a whole, using the continuous contract for futures to have a look at this. What we'll do as well, we obviously want to make sure that we've got our right setup. So let me just do this. Don't know what time frames you might use. Let's put maybe the, I want to make sure this is the daily. You let me know if you want to use different time frames, but we'll use daily and 55, just because that's probably more likely to be used, I guess maybe even smaller if we're doing futures trading. So if it's daily on the left, then it's a 55-minute. Be right. Brilliant. Okay, so let me just add our UFOs on the right hand side and our climate as well. Should be, so auto UFOs, let's add that. And on the left hand side, let us add our auto climate. Brilliant. Just taking a second there. There it is. And I know the background's black. I know a lot of people like their charts like that. I prefer the black, the background to be white, just because it's easier for me to see. But you know, we'll keep it like this. And we obviously need to add our EMA value as well on the left-hand side. So let's add that. So coming down here, moving average exponential. Okay, brilliant. So on the 10-year note, we have a thick red dot, probability downwards. We have sellers here, but our EMA value, let's just make this smaller so we can see it. EMA value is 130.175, which is about here. Now, as price moves up, chances are that EMA will move up as well. Well, it definitely will move up. The question is how far. Will it move up enough to coincide with this UFO? Not too sure, to be honest. I'd say it's more likely than it is unlikely, but it's not close enough really for a good opportunity in my eyes. Now we can look at different time frames. So let's say 240-minute on the left, 21-minute on the right. Let's wait for it to load and see if we've got an opportunity here. If we don't, hopefully this has helped to give you some context around bonds and around what you might use for bonds. I personally would access them through futures, but not to say you can't do it elsewhere. I think I'm loading a lot of data and that's why that's taking a while, unfortunately. Sorry about that, it just keeps flashing on and off. So we'll take a look at this and then we'll go and look at a very quick, oh no, I was going to say we'll go and look at a crypto example, but we don't have time. So we will end with the bond that we're looking at. Let me see. Sure you can see. I wonder if I do know the symbol on TradingView. That's fine, we're good here. So thick red dot, probability down. We have our EMA value is 130.075, which is here. I would say it's unlikely to coincide with this UFO as price moves up. So overall on the 10-year note anyway, across the daily timeframes and the 240-minute timeframes, we don't have opportunities that are close to us that are lining up. We have placed 4 trades, or I think maybe even 5 trades, I've lost count now, on different things today. On the pound yen, be aware that it's a little bit further from current price, so just check in on that, be aware of that. But otherwise, all of our other opportunities were close by, looking good. We'll obviously manage them as they go and see how it goes. Ideally, we want to win, but of course, we have our risk management in place to protect us if we're wrong. If you guys have questions, you can go to tradewithufos.com/Becky. You can sign in and ask questions here, or you can email me, becky@tradictive.com. So you can let me know if you have any questions via that as well. I will love you guys and leave you because I know we've gone just over, I think, at least from my watch, gone just over our time. So hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully the trade examples give you some good ideas. And again, you can always reach out if you have any questions. All right. Cheers, guys. Have a great Wednesday, a great trading rest of your week, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care.